Okay, it is 12 o'clock, so we can call this meeting to order. And first, I'll look for disclosures of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we have a number of consent items, and would committee like any of those pulled? Number 2, please. Anyone else? Okay, so I'll look for a motion for 3 through to 11. We have a mover and a seconder. Any comments on any of those items? No, no comments, no questions. Then we can call the vote.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
Very good. And Councillor Squire.
Thank you. I pulled item number 2, but I equally could have pulled all of the housing reports. And I want to be really succinct in what I'm saying. I appreciate the work that's done on the ground. I've spent time with many of these groups. I've been out on the street with London Cares. I've seen a presentation from London Cares, and I understand the work that's being done. And I also understand that much of this money is coming from the province, and it's not coming out of our budget. But I want to focus on one sentence that's in the report that I pulled, and it's on page 3, the 3rd paragraph. It says, the strategies and outcomes identified in a number of council-approved documents require tangible evidence to demonstrate progress in solving homelessness. So my difficulty is, and my challenge is, that I've now been a councillor for over 3 years, and I have no way, based on the reports I'm receiving, the information I'm receiving, to give any decision-making or any guidance in that area. In other words, I do not know if on a broader basis we're solving or making a dent in the issue of homelessness. So my question is this: at some point in time, will there be a report or a presentation that says, you know what, these tools we've been using, London Cares, the bank that provides money, they're working because of this, because we can see results. And when people ask me and they say, we're doing well in homelessness, or we're not doing well, and I get all those opinions in the community. Some people say we're doing well, other people say we do a terrible job in this area, quite frankly. When am I going to get a report as a councillor that says, hey, here's the tools we're using and they're working, or they're not working, or we need another tool?
Through the chair, I think we've provided a number of individual reports that give you aspects of the solution to homelessness. So one of those that we recently brought forward was on our emergency shelters and their utilization, and you're seeing a downward trend because of 2 efforts, diversion and rapid rehousing. That's one sliver. We provided a report on the success of our street-level women at risk program, where we showed you 28 women have been successfully housed and retaining those housing. So we've been providing you individual pictures. I appreciate the comment that you haven't had the total picture. And I think some of that is because we don't have the data from a complete system perspective to be able to do it. And that's what this homeless management information system will allow us to understand. Who's in our system, how are they utilizing our system, and are we making a complete difference across all aspects of it? That will give us the complete picture, but we're in the stages of implementing it. We can talk to you about where we're seeing success on all of the, I call them levers, that we're pressing at the same time to reduce the impact of homelessness, either retain housing or get people housed quickly. So I guess the answer is, I can't give you that complete picture just yet. We're hoping this information system will allow us to do those things, but we have been able to demonstrate success in each of those project areas that we focused on, like the emergency shelter piece, like street level women at risk, and we've provided other reports on other initiatives. So I appreciate it doesn't give you the complete system, but it does show you where our efforts have been effective.
And I appreciate the answer. So then my question would be, is there a timeline? Because as I said earlier, I've served an entire term almost as a councillor without getting the complete picture. Is there a time when we will get some kind of a complete picture where at least I as an individual councillor can analyze what what programs are working and which ones aren't working. And I appreciate that every person in every one of these programs is doing their very best, because I've seen them. I've seen them doing their work, and I appreciate that work. But I just wonder the timeline, because who knows if I'll be here.
Through the chair, we report annually, usually around in June, in terms of where we are with each of our initiatives, and we need to publish that on our website, so we do that every year. I would say to you, because we're aiming to implement this information system by April 1st, in another year, we should be able to show some impact across the system where we have consistent data. I appreciate that's outside the timeline that perhaps you might be looking for, Councillor, but we do report annually in June, and you'll see where we're at in terms of all of the initiatives.
Any other questions from committee? So I just had one comment. I know I had a question outside of this committee about, and it's for item 3, the report itself on the homeless prevention system. And there were a number of statistics shown, and one of them was moving to new housing, and it showed from 2014 2015 457 households transitioned from being unsheltered into housing, and then that number dropped for the 2015-16 year to 297. So my question was, why did we see that big drop of people moving from shelter into housing?
Thank you, and through the chair. I would say first is we always will continue to monitor these trend shifts. Two important reasons that I think help to address this. The first is that we can also note in our emergency shelter report that we've seen a dramatic decrease in the use. And when we think about our diversion efforts from using shelter and appropriate referrals from shelter, it means that those that are housed can return to their housing instead of losing their housing and needing the Housing Stability Bank. So we have evidence that demonstrates why we see that decrease. That's one reason. And I think the rest of it is we'll monitor carefully to see if there's a change in trend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, and I think that speaks to what Ms. Livingston was saying, that we're seeing some progress in the different areas on their own, but I appreciate Councillor Squire's line of questioning about getting that all together in one consolidated report, and that's why I think this is really important, this homeless management information system, getting the data not only from the City of London projects and initiatives, but what the frontline organizations out there are doing and the data that they're compiling, being able to see that all as one complete picture, because it is for the entire City of London. It's not just what City of London itself is doing. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Helmer.
Thank you. I apologize for missing the very beginning of the meeting, and if somebody's already asked about this, I don't want to be duplicating, but for this is number 2, right? Yeah. So this is the second revision. I remember when we approved this back in January 2017, it was $640,000, and now it's $900,000. Have we explored all the options available to us in the agreement we have with Cargo? I understand that some of these things are outside of their control, but you know, they have some responsibility as the consultant who bid on the project. You know, they committed to doing certain things. Have we explored all the options we've got under the contract with them to get it done within the original approved budget?
Through the chair, I'll start, and if you need more detail, Ms. Richardson can follow up. But I think it would be fair to say we've explored every option with Cargo to try and move forward. This is not an issue about Cargo. Frankly, this is an issue about the product that we are working with not delivering on what we were told it would do. And that lays at the feet of the Government of Canada in terms of it's not lived up to the promises that were made or the demonstrations that were provided. And so we, in order to be able to move forward and be able to implement by April 1st and continue to have all of the agencies that have been working with us on this stay with us and continue to do it so we can have effective implementation, that's why you're seeing the increase. So I believe we've explored every possibility with Cargo. They have been fair and flexible with us as we've tried to mitigate what the cost implications might be in order to continue to implement and get it delivered by April 1. I don't know, Jan, if you want to add anything.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been moved and seconded, and so we'll call the vote. Welcome, Mayor Brown. Would you like to vote manually?
Considering I'm not sure what agenda item that we're on, I think I'll wait for the next one, but thank you for the opportunity.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 4-0.
We're now on to item number 12 because we're a very efficient committee. So I'll look to committee for any questions or comments on item number 12, the second report of the Diversity, Inclusion, and Anti-Oppression Advisory Committee. There was one item, number 11, which I'll look to the clerk for clarification. I believe we may want to refer that back to the clerk. Okay, we're good with that. So we can move the whole report. Councillor Ridley.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize for not using my microphone earlier. I asked if I could speak to this item. The reason that this is for direction is that item 11, and I'm looking for clarification about exactly what's being requested. I don't know if there's anyone from the committee here today that's able to be more clear. It says to consider new additional resources for the advisory committee, board, and commission membership recruitment. So I'm just not sure what resources they're looking for. Or are they looking for the clerk to report back on what resources may be necessary to do that?
So I'll speak to what I know about this. So this comes, and we've seen a number of times that this has come through. It's directly related to the Diverse Voices for Change initiative project that we've been a part of, working with women in politics. And they have gone around with Kinga Colton from the Government Relations Office here at the city, doing presentations to the different advisory committees. So this particular thing we've seen it on a couple of different advisory committee reports. And there are things that are happening already. So as part of the project and as part of what we've been doing also in the governance working group as well, it's just a matter of looking at how we do our recruitment for advisory committees, boards, and commissions, and making sure that we are doing the best we can to ensure we're seeing applications from more diverse communities. Go ahead.
Thank you, and that's what I read as well. And so what I think I would prefer to see in terms of direction from our committee is that the city clerk be requested to review and consider and to report back to our committee. I think that it's good for us to know if there is a need for additional resources and how this may be implemented in terms of the recruitment strategy, and for both committee and council to be able to support that effort when it's brought forward. So I would like to request that change. If I may, Madam Chair, I don't see the part about reporting back to the appropriate committee. And I'm not referring to the advisory committees, but rather a committee of council. I see Civic Works Committee. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate committee to report back to, or if it should be just the appropriate committee. Okay.
Any comments on that? Any other questions? Counselor Squire.
Yeah, I just, I'll be voting in favor of this, it's fine, but one of the things I'd be really interested in is, there's an assumption here that there's a lack of diversity of applications, and one of the things I'd like to know is that, do we know that? I mean, what is the lack of diversity of people applying for committees? Because there's all kinds of different diversities, not just the diverse young women. There's all kinds of other groups that may be underrepresented. So that would be something, before I voted to allocate resources in a particular area, I would want to see that that's an area that is indeed problematic. I have to say, as a councillor, when I was faced with electing people to advisory committees, the biggest challenge for me was having any familiarity with the candidates. I didn't know most of the candidates, and when the recommendations came to me, I had no idea who they were, because I had been a school board trustee. I didn't hang around City Hall. I didn't know the faces and the names. So that would be really helpful to me to know where is the issue, and in terms of those coming forward, and is there a way we can do a better presentation?
So Councillor Squire is part of the working group for the Diverse Voices for Change project. We did conduct a survey. We hired a third party to do a survey of all of our members on the advisory committees, boards, and commissions. And the results of the survey did show a definite lack of diversity on all of our ABCs. So I think as part of to improve that kind of diversity, there was a recognition that we need to perhaps do a better job of recruiting to ensure that all the communities across the city are made aware of and as part of the surveys of the women that participated in some of the workshops we held, the women were not aware of these positions that were available to them, that were available to put their names forward. So it's all part of the larger project. If we're going to increase the membership and truly reflect the diversity that in the City of London, then the recruitment has to really target some of these groups that aren't represented on the advisory boards and commissions.
And again, I take no issue with wanting to get out there. I just saying on a broader base, there's all kinds of groups we should be looking at to join committees. And in fact, I would say for a person like me, before I became a councillor, I had a very low knowledge level that there were even advisory committees and how you would join an advisory committee. And I'm obviously not a person of diversity, but I think sometimes the impediment to joining these committees is really informational. And I don't want anyone to think we're trying to exclude anybody. I think we should be as inclusive as we can, no matter who the person is, and even if they're a person my age and my gender, I would at least like to know that some of these jobs are available, because maybe I could do a good job.
Okay, any other comments? Then we can call the question.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 13, which is the deferred matters list. Any comments, questions? Councillor Ridley.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. We don't have a lot on our list, which is great. There are some things without a expected return time. So I wonder if some of that can either be cleaned up or updated before the next meeting. For example, item 5, estimate report back not available. If we can just have that updated, I think, before the next agenda, that would be helpful. If there's anything that can be removed, or any timelines to be updated, I would appreciate that.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Okay, I have a question about item number 6. It's that cost recovery for the unsanctioned homecoming. I believe this was reported out through Town and Gown, so I'm wondering, and Town and Gown then reports to CAPS. So I'm wondering if that came through on a Town and Gown report, and yet it still sits on this deferred matters list? Okay, so the clerk's going to look into that. Yes, Councillor Squire.
If it's any assistance, Madam Chair, we have not met. I don't think the Town and Gown Committee has met since their last report came to council. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I don't think we've had a meeting for quite some time.
The clerk will investigate. So we can put that on the floor, and we'll need a mover and a seconder. And we can vote.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
And that looks like the last item on our agenda, unless there is any additional business. And I'm not seeing any, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn. I think, will it come up on the screen? No. Okay, moved by the mayor, and seconded by Councillor Sally. All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.